What if I told you that becoming fluent in English is within your reach right now? I'm not talking about endless grammar drills or boring textbooks. I'm talking about real, natural fluency that opens doors to new opportunities, builds unshakable confidence, and transforms how you see yourself. Most English learners spend years studying but still struggle to speak naturally. Why? Because they're focusing on the wrong things. In this video, I'll show you Native Explorer's proven path to fluency, one that's faster, more enjoyable, and actually works. If you're tired of knowing the rules but freezing when it's time to speak, this is for you. True English fluency is what countless people around the world dream about. Imagine expressing your thoughts effortlessly, connecting with others without that mental translation, feeling completely at ease. I was once in your shoes, hesitant, overthinking every word, afraid of judgment. Then one day, my mentor shared something that changed everything. Fluency isn't about perfection. It's about connection. That simple truth was my turning point. I realized that my fear of mistakes was the very thing holding me back from the fluency I desired. Fluency isn't something that magically appears overnight. It's like growing a garden. You plant seeds of vocabulary, water them with practice, give them sunshine through consistent exposure, and watch patiently as they bloom. At Native Explorer, we believe in this natural growth process. Day by day, sentence by sentence, your fluency garden flourishes until one day you realize you're expressing yourself without even thinking about it. This organic approach is what separates true fluency from memorized phrases and textbook knowledge. Recently, a viewer messaged me. I understand English, but when I try to speak, the words get stuck. I smiled because I've heard this countless times. Fluency isn't about perfect recall, I explained. It's about building comfort through regular, meaningful practice. Her next question, but how exactly do I practice? The answer is simpler than you think: immersion in everyday life. Talk to yourself while cooking, narrate your morning routine, describe what you see on your commute, all in English. Every moment becomes an opportunity. This viewer began practicing just 15 minutes daily, and within weeks, she messaged again with excitement about her progress. When I was beginning my language journey, I discovered the power of stories. Each evening, I would listen to short tales, repeating phrases that felt natural. I started slowly, stumbling over words, but with consistent practice, those phrases became part of me. This is why at Native Explorer, we emphasize learning through context rather than isolated vocabulary lists. One of our community members was struggling with remembering words until she began learning them through stories. Now she remembers not just the words, but when and how to use them naturally in conversation. Does fluency mean speaking quickly? A community member once asked. Not at all. True fluency is about clarity and comfort, not speed. I've met many learners who speak rapidly but aren't understood. I always advise, speak at a natural pace, focus on clear pronunciation, and use expressions that feel authentic to you. This approach builds genuine confidence because you're focused on communication, not performance. I once had a student who spoke so fast that people would constantly ask him to repeat himself. When he slowed down and focused on clarity, people not only understood him better, his confidence actually improved because he was making real connections. Fluency is indeed a journey, not a destination. Each conversation, each new word learned, each moment of understanding a native speaker, these are all milestones to celebrate. Don't rush past them looking for some perfect end state. At Native Explorer, we believe in enjoying every step of this adventure. I remember my own journey, how thrilled I was the first time I understood a movie without subtitles or successfully told a joke in my new language. These moments matter. They're the true measure of your progress. Now, let me share something crucial that many teachers won't tell you. Passive listening is the hidden foundation of fluency. Your brain needs to absorb the natural rhythms and patterns of English before you can produce them. I knew a community member who listened to English podcasts during her daily commute, not actively studying, just letting the language wash over her. Within months, her speaking became noticeably more natural. Her brain had been quietly mapping the language landscape all along. She couldn't explain exactly how it had happened. It felt almost magical, but this passive absorption had trained her ear and mind in ways that intentional study never could. Here's another truth. Mistakes aren't failures, they're essential stepping stones. One of our most successful community members used to freeze mid-sentence, terrified of saying something incorrect. I encouraged her to adopt what we call the native explorer mindset. Speak boldly, learn happily from corrections, and move forward. Once she embraced this approach, her progress accelerated dramatically. She now mentors other learners in our community. She tells them, "The day I started making more mistakes was the day I truly began to learn." What a powerful perspective shift. Thinking directly in English is a game changer for fluency. When you translate in your head, you're actually speaking two languages at once. I worked with a learner who struggled with this mental translation barrier. We practiced simple daily thinking exercises describing objects around him in English, narrating his actions mentally. Gradually, English became his direct thinking language for certain topics, and his spoken fluency transformed. One day he told me excitedly, "Last night I had a dream in English." That's when I knew the language was becoming truly part of him, not just a set of rules and words he was trying to remember. Reading widely builds a rich foundation for speaking fluently. At Native Explorer, we recommend starting with materials slightly above your comfort level. One community member began with children's stories, then graduated to simple articles, noting unfamiliar phrases to incorporate into her speaking. She didn't pressure herself to understand everything immediately. This patient approach led to natural vocabulary growth and more confident expression. She told me recently that she now understands about 90% of news articles, a huge improvement from the 30% she started with. Reading regularly exposed her to patterns and expressions that now flow naturally in her speech. Recording yourself speaking is powerful but underutilized. Many are embarrassed to hear their own voice, but this feedback loop accelerates improvement. A dedicated learner in our community recorded herself reading the same passage weekly for 3 months. The transformation when she compared her first and last recordings was remarkable, not just in pronunciation, but in the natural flow and confidence of her delivery. She could hear the improvement herself, which motivated her to continue. Sometimes we can't see our own progress until we have concrete evidence. Those recordings provided exactly that. Having a consistent practice partner multiplies your progress. 2 friends in our Native Explorer community committed to weekly English-only coffee chats. They created a judgment-free zone where they could experiment with new phrases and help each other improve. Their progress outpaced others who studied more intensively but lacked this regular, low-pressure practice. They celebrated each other's victories and gently corrected mistakes. This supportive dynamic created a space where they felt safe to try new expressions and push beyond their comfort zones. Both now speak with a fluency that surprises even them. Real-world application solidifies classroom learning. A community member who worked at a hotel decided to initiate conversations with English-speaking guests. Initially, these were brief exchanges, but as his confidence grew, so did the depth of these interactions. This authentic practice in varying situations built a flexibility that textbook exercises never could. He told me, "Each conversation is different, forcing me to adapt in real time. It's challenging but exhilarating." His English now has a natural spontaneity that comes only from these unscripted interactions. Cultivating curiosity accelerates fluency naturally. When you encounter an unfamiliar expression, investigate it like a language detective. One particularly successful learner kept a small notebook of interesting phrases she encountered, looking up not just meanings but contexts and variations. This curious mindset turned everyday encounters into personalized learning opportunities. She would ask native speakers, "I heard this phrase, can you explain when you would use it?" This approach not only expanded her vocabulary but deepened her cultural understanding of the language. Curiosity transforms learning from a chore into an adventure. Having a meaningful purpose fuels consistent practice. A Native Explorer community member was preparing for an international conference. This concrete goal gave her daily practice sessions a sense of urgency and relevance. By the time the conference arrived, she was confidently participating in complex discussions. Your why powers your how long and how often. Another member wanted to read his favorite author's works in their original English. This personal connection made his study sessions feel meaningful rather than mechanical. What's your motivation? Find something that matters deeply to you and let it energize your learning. Finding joy in the process sustains long-term growth. A community member who struggled with traditional study methods discovered he loved English language cooking videos. He began cooking along with them, naturally absorbing vocabulary and expressions in a context he enjoyed. This pleasure-based learning created a sustainable practice that traditional homework never could. He didn't just learn cooking terms, he absorbed timing, transitions, and natural expressions. Now he hosts English dinner parties where cooking and conversation blend seamlessly. When learning brings you joy, consistency becomes effortless. Spaced repetition builds neural pathways for fluency. Rather than cramming vocabulary, reviewing words and phrases at increasing intervals embeds them deeply in memory. A diligent learner in our community used this technique with phrases from her favorite English show, reviewing them at strategic intervals. Soon she was naturally incorporating these expressions in conversation. She explained, "The words don't feel memorized anymore, they feel like part of my natural vocabulary." This scientifically proven approach mimics how our brains naturally form lasting connections. Exposing yourself to different accents and speaking styles builds adaptive fluency. One Native Explorer member intentionally sought out English content from different countries of British podcasts, American shows, Australian radio. Initially challenging, this practice developed his ability to understand and connect with English speakers from various backgrounds. He shared, "At first, I could only understand my teacher's accent. Now I feel confident speaking with anyone." This versatility is crucial for real-world communication in our global community. Speaking about topics you're passionate about accelerates fluency. When emotion connects to language, retention improves dramatically. A shy community member who loved photography began describing his images in English. Because he cared deeply about the subject, words flowed more naturally than in structured conversation practice. His vocabulary around this topic expanded rapidly, and his confidence in discussing other subjects grew as well. Passion creates a bridge between your thoughts and your new language. True fluency includes comfort with ambiguity, not understanding every word, but grasping meaning through context. We teach the 70% rule at Native Explorer. If you understand about 70% of a conversation, stay engaged rather than shutting down. One member practiced this approach at English language networking events, focusing on maintaining the flow of conversation even when she missed certain words. This resilience is essential for real-world fluency. She told me, "Once I stopped obsessing about catching every word, conversations became enjoyable rather than stressful. My understanding actually improved because I was relaxed." What motivates you to continue your fluency journey, even on challenging days? This personal why is your most powerful tool. For one community member, it was connecting with her grandchildren who grew up speaking English. For another, it was advancing in his career. Your motivation might be travel, education, relationships, or personal growth. Whatever it is, keep it at the forefront of your mind, especially on days when practice feels difficult. Your personal why transforms obligation into opportunity. Body language significantly impacts how fluently you communicate. Practicing in front of a mirror helps integrate nonverbal elements with your speech. A nervous community member found that maintaining eye contact and open posture in the mirror helped him feel more confident when speaking with others. Your body can lead your mind toward greater fluency. Another member noticed she would physically tense up during English conversations, making her speech sound stilted. By consciously relaxing her shoulders and adopting a more confident stance, her speech became noticeably more fluid. Remember, communication is only partly about words, your body speaks volumes. Word retrieval blocks happen to everyone, even native speakers. The difference is in how you handle them. We teach a simple recovery technique. Pause naturally, use a bridging phrase, what I'm trying to say is, and rephrase your thought. A once hesitant learner mastered this technique and now navigates conversations smoothly, even when she can't find the exact word. She shared, "I used to panic when I forgot a word. Now I stay calm and find another way to express my idea." This flexibility keeps conversations flowing naturally, building confidence with each successful navigation. Strategic rest periods enhance learning. The brain consolidates language skills during downtime. An ambitious community member who studied intensively was hitting a plateau until she implemented language rest days and no studying, just relaxed exposure to English through entertainment. This rhythm of effort and rest accelerated her progress. She reported, "After a break, I'd returned to find concepts clearer than before, almost as if my brain had been working on them while I wasn't looking." Neuroscience confirms this. Sometimes the most effective thing you can do for your learning is to take a step back. Creative expression unlocks fluency in surprising ways. Writing poetry, keeping a journal, or creating stories in English engages different parts of your brain. A technical-minded learner who struggled with natural speech began writing short English stories about his day. This creative practice transformed his speaking style from mechanical to expressive. He discovered that creativity freed him from overthinking grammar and vocabulary. His language became more intuitive and natural because he was focused on communicating meaning rather than following rules. Try expressing yourself creatively in English. You might be surprised by what emerges. Teaching what you know reinforces your own learning. In our Native Explorer community, we encourage peer teaching. A learner who had mastered basic idioms created short explanations for newer members. This not only strengthened her understanding but built her confidence in more advanced conversations. She told me, "Having to explain concepts to others forced me to understand them more deeply myself." Many of our most fluent community members actively mentor beginners, finding that teaching solidifies their own knowledge while giving back to others on the same journey. Establishing a consistent routine signals to your brain that language learning is a priority. A busy professional in our community dedicated just 20 minutes every morning to English practice. This daily ritual, though brief, created more progress than his previous approach of occasional longer sessions. Consistency transforms more powerfully than intensity alone. He shared, "My mind now expects English time every morning. It's like my brain warms up the language centers in anticipation." This routine has become as natural as his morning coffee, and his progress reflects this steady commitment. Patience with yourself creates space for genuine growth. A perfectionist learner was her own harshest critic until she adopted what we call growth tracking and noting improvements rather than mistakes. This shift in perspective allowed her to recognize her considerable progress and maintained her motivation through challenging phases. She began keeping a simple journal of new things I can do in English, from understanding a joke to successfully giving directions. This positive focus transformed her experience from one of constant self-criticism to genuine satisfaction with her growing abilities. Deep listening skills form the foundation of natural speech. One community member practiced shadow listening, repeating phrases immediately after hearing them to absorb natural rhythm and intonation. This technique bridged the gap between understanding English and producing it naturally. He explained, "It's like my mouth is learning the physical patterns while my brain absorbs the meaning." This multi-sensory approach creates neural pathways that support fluent speech. Try shadow listening with a short podcast segment daily. You'll likely notice improvements in both your pronunciation and speaking rhythm. A positive mindset directly impacts language acquisition. Research shows that stress and negative self-talk literally restrict access to language centers in the brain. We teach a simple reset phrase technique for moments of frustration. A formerly anxious learner used this approach to transform challenging language situations from threats to opportunities for growth. Whenever she felt overwhelmed, she would silently repeat, I'm learning, and that's why I'm here. This simple reframing helped her brain remain receptive rather than shutting down. Your mindset isn't just about feeling good, it physically affects your ability to learn and speak fluently. Expanding your comfort zone in small, manageable steps builds sustainable confidence. A member who was comfortable in one-on-one English conversations challenged himself to join small group discussions. These incremental stretches built his capabilities without triggering overwhelming anxiety. Each expanded comfort zone becomes the new normal from which you can stretch again. He reflected, "Looking back, I can't believe I was once terrified to order coffee in English. Now I'm giving presentations." This graduated approach prevents the burnout that often comes from pushing too far beyond your comfort zone all at once. Observing fluent non-native speakers provides both inspiration and practical strategies. We regularly feature success stories in the Native Explorer community. A discouraged learner found renewed motivation after connecting with someone from her country who had achieved the fluency she desired. These role models provide both proof of possibility and practical pathways forward. She shared, "Seeing someone with my mother tongue speaking English so confidently showed me it was possible for me too." Who are your fluency role models? Find inspiration in others while creating your own unique path to fluency. Celebrating small wins maintains motivation for the larger journey. We encourage tracking fluency moments, times when you express something smoothly, understood a complex explanation, or recovered well from a mistake. A methodical learner who began acknowledging these victories found her confidence growing alongside her skills. She noted, "Instead of focusing on how far I have to go, I started appreciating how far I've come." This shift from deficit thinking to progress recognition sustains motivation through the inevitable plateaus that come with any learning journey. Embracing silence and thoughtful pauses is part of mature fluency. Native speakers use these natural rhythms, and you can too. A community member who rushed his speech practiced intentional pausing, discovering that these brief moments allowed him to organize his thoughts and actually speak more fluently. Fluency isn't about constant sound, it's about comfortable expression. Another member observed that when she stopped fearing silences in conversation, her anxiety decreased and her natural expression improved. Remember, even native speakers pause to gather thoughts. It's a normal part of authentic communication. Applying new knowledge immediately cements learning. The 24-hour rule we teach at Native Explorer encourages using new vocabulary or grammar patterns within a day of learning them. A dedicated community member who implemented this practice found her active vocabulary growing much faster than during her previous years of traditional study. She explained, "Before, I would learn words but never actually use them. Now I make a point of using each new word within 24 hours, and they stick." This simple commitment transforms passive knowledge into active language skills that serve you in real conversations. Using gestures and expressions enhances both understanding and fluency. A reserved learner in our community discovered that incorporating natural hand movements and facial expressions not only helped others understand him better but actually improved his verbal fluency. Physical movement seems to unlock verbal expression. He shared, "When I stopped being stiff and started using my hands naturally, my words flowed more easily." Try this yourself and notice how native speakers use their bodies when communicating and gradually incorporate similar natural movements into your own speech. Developing an authentic English-speaking persona can transcend language barriers. A shy community member created what she called her English self, slightly more outgoing and expressive than her usual personality. This psychological shift helped her bypass her inhibitions. She explained, "In my native language, I'm quite reserved, but my English-speaking self is more adventurous. This freedom actually helps me communicate more effectively." Many learners find that a slight persona shift liberates them from constraints they feel in their first language. Immersing yourself in cultural context deepens linguistic understanding. A dedicated learner struggled with idioms until he began exploring their cultural and historical origins. Understanding why English speakers say "break a leg" or "under the weather" transformed these expressions from random phrases to meaningful communication tools. He noted, once I understood the stories behind the expressions, they became part of my thinking, not just words to memorize. Language and culture are inseparable, exploring one enhances your grasp of the other. Finding your unique voice in English matters more than perfect grammar. A community member who spoke with minor grammatical errors but genuine expressiveness connected more effectively than those with perfect grammar but stilted delivery. She learned to value her unique perspective and accent as parts of her authentic voice. I realize people want to hear what I have to say, not just how perfectly I say it, she shared. Your individuality enriches the language. Embrace your unique voice rather than trying to become a perfect imitation of someone else. Your fluency journey is uniquely yours. What works for others may not work for you, and that's perfectly fine. At Native Explorer, we believe in personalized pathways to natural English. Let's discover yours together. Remember, the goal isn't to speak like someone else, it's to express yourself authentically in this new language. The world doesn't need another perfect English speaker. It needs your voice, your ideas, your perspective expressed clearly in English. I'm here to help you find that voice. Join our Native Explorer community, and let's transform your relationship with English together.